Aibovan, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our Real Other channel. I'm Kader Master, and this is The War. As you know, war has two sides. We will always bring the other side of the story. Today, as usual, in this video, I'll talk about something that either no one else talks about or does not look at the issues from the angle that I do. It is about the potential changes that this parliamentary election will bring. This is part one. And the subtopic is this the end of the road for the old and new elite rulers? This topic may raise several other questions. Why should we end their rule? Have they not served this country at all? We will find answers to such questions too. During our conversation, we will also share some fascinating anecdotes. Do you know SWRD Bandaranaike had an unusual habit? He would always dress neatly in Western attire for dinner at home, as he anticipated that his British and anglicized friends would join him. Our first Prime Minister, Senanayake, had the nickname Jungle John. Do you know the reason behind it? When Mr. Bandaranaike's marriage proposal was taken to Srima's family, they initially turned it down. Do you know why? Have patience. We will go to that as well. We will explore the backgrounds of these countries' past leaders, examining who they represented, how they ascended to power, and why they cannot be visionary leaders. Additionally, in our new segment, The Eagle, we will spotlight several significant corruption cases and scams, including the recent government pillars antics. Get ready for some intriguing stories that I will share in this video. Let us go right into the topic. Take a look at this footage. If I were to ask you if you were familiar with these faces, I know you will chuckle at my questions. But I assure you, you will be taken aback when you discover the other side of their story. That is what this program is all about. We had 7 state head prime ministers, 8 executive presidents, and now we have another one. It has been slightly more than 76 years since we gained independence in 1948. During this period, the Colombo-based colonial elite, represented by the UNP, governed the country for over 38 years. That is a half of the total period. While the rural elite, led by the colonial elite Bandaranaike family, governed this country for 26 years. Since the founders of both the UNP and SLP were colonial elites, products of colonialism, and their successors continued in their footsteps, it can be concluded that this country was ruled by this colonial elite for over 64 years. An interesting fact that many may not be aware of is that the leaders of the UNP and its rival, the SLP, who governed this country for 64 out of the 76 years since independence, are actually belongs to a single extended colonial elite family. Can you believe it? It split into 2 branches in 1952, as the Senayake Vijayawardena family and Bandaranaike family. The only exception was the Mahinda Rajapaksa's 12 years family rule. He broke away from the SLFPP and sought to establish a new dynasty through his extensive family. This faction represented the emerging rural elite, even though they were not typical representatives of the colonial elite. Now, let me examine how these colonial elites interconnected as an extended family through marriage. Let us begin with D.S. Senanayake, the country's inaugural prime minister. His full name is Don Stephen Senanayake. Notably, many members of the elite share the name that begin with Don or the other Anglo-Christian names, followed by a Sinhalese surname. This naming convention highlights their connection to and loyalty towards their colonial masters. Don Stephen Senanayake was the son of Mudaliar Don Peter Senanayake, a super rich Anglican Christian Sinhala Mudaliar who owned vast Plumbago or graphite mines and plantations on the island and was also involved in the arak renting business. That is more important. Note this. He involved in the arak renting business too. His business significantly relied on import and export activities with Western countries and was contingent upon the authority of Sri Lanka, British colonial rule. He was actually one of the native land grabbers of Canadian peasantry, whose lands were transformed into prosperous plantations. In the later years, their sons, who eventually became the political leaders of the country, directed the anger of the landless Canadian peasants against the poor Tamil plantation workers who still possess not a single inch of land to this day. Now, let us see Solomon Ridgway Dias Bandaranaike or SWRD Bandaranaike's family, linked to how they link to the Senanayake family. He is the son of another super rich elite, Anglican Christian Sinhalese Mahamudaliyar, Sir Solomon Dias Bandaranaike, who was one of the few large plantation owners or land grabbers of the country. This is Senanayaka's sister, Maria Francis Senanayake, married to Frederick H. Dias Bandaranaike, a member of Bandaranaike clan. This is the story of how the Senanayake Bandaranaike families unified through a marriage alliance. However, Senanayake Bandaranaike families split politically after SWRD Bandaranaike broke away from the UNP in 1952 and formed the SLFP. Let us see about it later. Now, the Frederick H. Dias Bandaranaike's daughter, Effie Mantri Dias Bandaranaike, married to Sir John Kothalavala, who had been the Prime Minister from 12 October 1953 to 12 April 1956, when Dudley Senanayake, T.S. Senayake's son, resigned due to stomach pain at the time of 1952-53 Hartal. Then convergence of Senanayake and Vijayawardena family is of great importance. Before going to that, let us look at the background of the Vijayawardena family. It will enhance our understanding of the colonial elite. Thudugala Don Philip Vijayawardena. Don Philip Vijayawardena gained success as a timber merchant, having established the Sidavatta mills near the banks of Kalani River, which was used to transport timber. He was one of the primary contractors engaged by the British plantation owners to clear jungles. Consequently, much of the environmental damages during that period can be attributed to him. He became a supplier of timber, bricks, sands, and for the public works and military undertakings of the colonial government and invested in heavily in real estate. He was awarded the title Mohandiram and took the name of Vijayavardhana at the turn of the century. His sons continued his business venture with Don Richard Vijayavardhana branching out into print media, having established Associated Newspaper of Ceylon Limited, which is the Lake House, after it was nationalized by Srima Bandaranaike's government. Don Richard Vijayavardhana's son, Ranjit Vijayavardhana, established Vijay newspapers in 1979. The Vijayavardhana family serves as a classical example of the rise of the super rich as a dependent colonial elite, with their wealth primarily derived from serving the colonial government and colonial planters or acting as junior partners to the colonialists. Now, let us see how Senanayake family merged with Vijayavardhana. Dear Senanayaka's one of the sons, Robert Parakrama Senayaka's daughter, Rajini Senayaka married to Ranjit Vijayavardhana. Ruvan Vijayavardhana, who was a cabinet minister and member of parliament and currently the deputy chairman of the UNP, is their son. In other words, Ruvan Vijayavardhana is the son of Senanayake and Vijayavardhana family. That is why Ranil is grooming him as his potential successor and the future leader of the UNP, which he considers as his family property. That is the way he treats the country as well. That is why Ranil is grooming him as his political successor. Now, let us see how the other two politicians who dominate the country's politics for over half a century, Jayavardhana and Ranil Vikramasinghe, how they assimilated to or descended from this super rich colonial family elite. Now, first we'll look at Jayavardhana. Junius Richard. Junius Richard Jayavardhana, or J.R. Jayavardhana, a descendant from Thombi Mudaliyar, Don Andrian Vijay Singh Jayavardhana, who hailed from a chetty, had worked as a spy for the Dutch East Indian Company, and was captured by the British. With the withdrawal of the Dutch, Don Andrian was employed by the British as spy master and participated in the disastrous British expedition to Kandy in 1803 as a part of the advance guard. Richard, Junius Richard Jayavardhana's father, was a chief justice. His name is Egan Wilfred Jayavardhana. He married to Agnes Helen Dunlop Vijayavardhana. He is therefore a member of the Senanayake Vijayavardhana family through his mother's genealogy. Then we'll come to the well-known Ranil Vikramasinghe. You know how he is related to his family? He is one of their family, not related. We He was the second son of Esmond Vikramasinghe, who married to Nalini Vijayavardhana. Therefore, Ranil is a member of Senanayake Vijayavardhana family through his mother's lineage. Finally, We know how Srima Ratwat Dias became Srima Bandaranaike and eventually the world's first female prime minister. Her father was Bons Ratwat. Her paternal ancestry. Let us have a look at their family. Yeah, his her paternal ancestry includes her uncle Sir Jayatilaka Kudaratwate, the first person from Kandy to receive a British knighthood. One of these Ratwates, Tisawa of Martale, was signatory of the 1915 Canadian Convention. When Ratwate's Srima's parents were contacted by a matchmaker who proposed a union with Solomon Wesley Dias Bandaranaike, SWRD Bandaranaike, as you know, an Oxford educated lawyer turned politician who was at the time Minister of Local Administration in the State Council of Sri Lanka. Initially, SWRD Bandaranaike was not considered to be from an acceptable family, as Ratwate were aristocratic Kandyan family, which had inherited their services to the traditional royal family, while Bandaranaike were the wealthy family from the low country, which had been in service of the colonial rulers for centuries. Finally, astrologers reported their horoscope were compatible. The benefits of uniting the family were weighed and approval was given by Ratwate family. Although she did not originate from this Colombo based colonial elite, she hailed from Canadian colonial elite family. We are now moving on to the last part of this story, where we will talk about how they got into politics and have dominated it for so long. Don Stephen Senanayake, the founder of the UNP that ruled the country 38 years, was known as Jungle John in school. Unlike his older brother, Frederick Richard Senayake, or F.R. Senayake, a Colombo graduate, Cambridge graduate, and a dedicated student, D.S. was not very committed to his studies. He often bullied his classmates and, under pressure from his father, would pretend attending school by hanging his school bag in a tree instead and sneak off into jungle with hidden gun for hunting. Ultimately, he dropped out of school. F.R. Senanayake, a Cambridge graduate, was profoundly influenced by the temperance movement that was prevalent in Europe and Western politics at that time. This movement saw women organization taking a prominent role, rallying around the famous motto, "Lips that touch wine shall not touch mine," coined by New Zealand's Annie Driver. Upon returning to Sri Lanka, Senayake, F.R. Senayake collaborated with Anagarigat Dharmapala to invigorate the temperance movement called Sura Virodhi Vyapare, taking on the leadership position alongside his two brothers, including D.S. Senayake. Ironically, their father, Don Peter Senayake, as I have mentioned earlier, he was tied to the arak business, was one of the primary financiers of the temperance movement. Don Stephen Senayake even went to jail because, together with other leaders, because of his activities. in, in the Sura Virodi Vyaparya. In fact, he carved out his political identity by actively participating in that anti alcoholism campaign. But after becoming the first prime minister of the independent Sri Lanka, did he take any measures against alcoholism? No. He spent a considerable amount of foreign currency earned from impoverished plantation workers on importing foreign liquors and granting license for establishing more liquor shops across the country. This is the double standard of our colonial elite. Certain historians are praising the Senanayake for his accomplishment of securing domination status for the peacefully without bloodshed. Undoubtedly, he was an astute politician and he deserves credit for this success. However, the arguments presented during the clandestine negotiation with the British through his colleague Oliver Gunathilaka illustrates whose interests he represented. Their main argument centered around two key points. First, if Ceylon, then it was not Sri Lanka, it was Ceylon, a loyal and quiet colony that did not engage in any aggressive struggle for independence, was excluded, while India, which actively fought for its freedom, was granted independence. It would send a wrong message to other colonies that are not demanding freedom. Second, should this occur, a militant campaign for independence in Sri Lanka, led by leftist groups, would become inevitable, putting colonial interests at risk. This indicates that his pursuit for dominion status was aimed at safeguarding the interest of the colonial rulers rather than those of the Sri Lankan people. This political action, his political actions from since independence until his death reflects this, and his political successes continued along the same path. Now, let us look at the opportunism of the founder of SLP, SWRD Bandaranaike. Arguably, the most talented politician emerged from the colonial era. He was known for his habit of dressing in Western attire before dinner and anticipating of visiting European or anglicized friends for drinks or lavish meal. However, he later altered his public image by donning white national dress to appeal Sinhalese voters. He was the first politician in the country, to promote federalism. Can you believe that? It may be a surprise to many. He advocated federalism for Tamils as early as 1926 upon his return to Sri Lanka after completing his Oxford studies. At the time, the idea garnered no backlash from Sinhalese elites, intellectuals, or general public, though it did encounter resistance from a singular Tamil perspective. This opposition came from his friend, Dr. James T. Ratnam, who contended that federal concept would divide the communities. However, in the later years, Ratnam regretted for this. Again, Bandaranaike vehemently opposed the Sinhala-only policy proposed by J.R. Jayawardena in 1944, championing equality between Sinhala and Tamil through most of his life until 1953. However, he abruptly shifted his stance and embraced the Sinhala-only policy to gain power in 1956. He took this opportunistic move in order to settle score with the UNP and gain power. His departure from UNP was not very much by policy differences. Instead, it stemmed from a contest over succession, similar to those in the royal families. D.S. Senayake began to groom his son Dudley Senayake in his prime age, a cabinet minister then D.S. Senayake since 1947 as the next prime minister, at the expense of the heir apparent SWRD Bandaranaike, a minister since 1936, the leader of the house since 1947, and second in command in the UNP. Finally, Bandaranaike left the UNP in anger in 1951 to form his Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Before the 1952 election, Prime Minister D.S. Senayake died suddenly in March 1952 when he suffered a massive stroke while on horseback. D.S. Senayake suddenly he was succeeded by Prime Minister Dudley Senayake, his son. In the 1952 election, SWRD Bandaranaike ran on a manifesto advocating for linguistic equality between Sinhala and Tamil, but he was unable to gain power. Then came the historic Hartal 1953. It was the pivotal moment for him. He accurately recognized the underlying rural discontent that manifested during the Hartal. He skillfully rallied the Sinhala rural elite from five key groups, that is known as Panchama Balavege, the Sangha, clergy, Veda, that is physicians, Guru, teachers, Govi, farmers, and Kamkaru. For him, it includes the government officials, while disregarding the grievances and legitimate aspirations of the Tamil community. Finally, he ascended to power on the platform of Sinhala only. In the 1952 general election, after G.G. Ponnambalam, in a controversial manner, joining the DS government, the federal party also contested, but it was defeated decisively, with its leader S.G. Selvanayagam losing his seat in his Conkesanthura electorate to the UNP candidate. At the time, there was a hope for a unified multicultural state. It began to fade after 1956. This is how the elite politics have negatively impacted the country. The divided country after Sinhala only is still not unified. That is the deepest impact he brought about into this country. And also, the rural elite, the nationalist element, were converted into Chaunist, and they become the most corrupted elements in the country through the state capitalism. As you can see, this large extended family accumulated wealth and rose to prominence by serving these colonial overlords. Hence, the term colonial elite aptly describes them. In all the policies and initiatives they have implemented, although their small benefits that trickle down from the elephant's mouth have directly helped the country, these measures primarily served their own class and their family. Unlike in India or China, there were no mass struggle against colonial rule in Sri Lanka as a result, and no unifying figure or symbol representing an independent future, unifying all people together. Their colonial roots and dependency impeded their ability to become visionary leaders, leading them to take a more opportunistic stance instead. They either established and maintained client-patron relationship by utilizing state resources to broaden their political influence and vote base to ensure that their family members and supporters reap the benefit of their state power. This was achieved through awarding contracts and supplies to government institutions, appointing individuals to elevated positions, facilitating loans from state banks, and directing export orders their way, handing management of state enterprises, among other things. Following the introduction of the open economy in 1977, this trend evolved into a more permissive license to exploit the country's wealth, leveraging state power for rapid financial gain and overnight enrichment. During Mahinda Rajapaksa's leadership, this reached its peak. Now, let us recap the main points from our discussion. We have examined why these elites are unable to serve as visionary leaders, why they cannot be free from corruption and cannot live without it, why they cannot comprehend the real problem faced by the populace, and why they cannot save the country from its ongoing crisis. We know the answer because they are rooted in colonialism, their thinking, behavior, everything still, uh, still reflects their colonial background. Therefore, we arrive at the conclusion that a change is essential. An end to the corruption and inefficient rule of the elite is imperative. Luckily, after the 2024 presidential election, we have a president who comes from non elitist common man background, and more importantly, who is not aspiring to create a new elite of his own, who is settled and who is setting an example by deed after coming to power by giving up perks and privileges hitherto enjoyed by other politicians after getting elected. As such, it is the opportune time for the people to form a people's government by voting for corruption free and patriotic candidates. I will conclude the first part of this series for now until we meet again in the next video. Now, let us move on to our new segment, that is the eagle. Let us see what our eagle going to bring today for you. Today, our spy eagle will bring two revelations to you, including the recent antics of Gamanpila. First, look at this. The first about a few revelations made by the Sunday Times 2020th, that is a few days ago. It revealed during the Yapalne government in 1915, the late Bangala Samaravira, the then foreign minister, played a key role in the battle against corruption. He put in a lot of efforts to locate and retrieve assets that had been illegally amassed by a single family abroad. An officer assigned to conduct investigations was notorious for his own corruption practices. When the journalist alerted Mangala to this issue, Mangala Samaravira responded with humor, saying, use a thief to catch a thief. Ultimately, however, the officer who collected all the necessary information sold his findings to the other side and got away. This is will happen if we appoint corrupt official to combat corruption. The Sunday Times also exposed the corruption directly linked to the former president, Chandrika Bandaranaike. Rightly so, yes. It also exposed a few corruptions that took place during the Maithripala Sirisena's tenure. However, this column has remained silent on the mega corruptions associated with Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Sunday Times plays a key role in portraying Ranil in a favorable light, helping to create a Mr. Clean image for him. The fact that Ranil is a close relative of the newspaper owner raises concern about the potential for selective reporting. If journalists choose to overlook such matters, it constitutes a form of corruption and violation of media integrity. Saying so, now we come to the final episode, that is Gamanpila's antics. Although it is not worth giving publicity to Gamanpila, we have to. I am talking about it for a reason. We all aware of the reasons behind this attention seeker and the Sri Lanka's enough power antic. We know why he is targeting Ravi and Shani and who he is trying to defend. It is pointless to respond to him and inadvertently giving him the attention he seeks, especially since his true aim is to create confusion for the benefit of his sponsors. However, to silence him, we will pose three simple and straightforward questions. In fact, there's sensitive information about the Easter Sunday suicide attack and its key figures around. I'm not using the word mastermind for reason. Was not sent directly from the Indian source to Ravi Seniran. That is more important. Contrary to what Gaman Pila tries to portray. It was first received by two other senior police officers, National Intelligence Chief Sisira Mendis and the former Inspector General of Police. Nilantha Jayawardena, the former senior DIG and head of the State Intelligence Service, that is SIS, also received this information in writing. He then sent a copy of it to Ravi personally, addressing it by name and designating it as confidential, which, as per protocol, no one else could access. At that point, Ravi was not in Sri Lanka. He was attending an Interpol conference in Leo. Nilantha is aware that Ravi was on duty leave and out of the country. I'll get to the questions now. I'd like to pose my questions now. Mr. Gamanpila, why did you not hold Nilantha accountable for expecting Ravi, who was not in the country at that time, to respond immediately to such an urgent and sensitive national security issue? Who prevented Ravi and Shani the two impartial and highly reputable police officers leading the investigation from examining the Easter Sunday attack and what was the reason behind it. Why are you attempting to mislead the public during the ongoing election, and who awarded you this contract? With that, we are going to wrap up. Creating this type of videos involves extensive research and dedication, as you know. To continue our service, we really need your support. We hope you will express your appreciation by subscribing to our channel and sharing the videos. You can watch our past videos by visiting Real Other channel. That is a wrap for today. Looking forward to seeing you in our next program. Thanking you for watching.